What was your creepiest glitch in the Matrix experience? When I was 17, I was sleeping over at a friend's house. I had to work the next morning and had to get up at 7 a.m. to go to work. So we go to bed. I set an alarm for 7 and go to sleep. The next morning my alarm goes off. I sit up, it's light out. I see my friend asleep with her girlfriend in their bed. I was on a mattress on the floor. I started to get up, but decided to go back to sleep for 15 minutes, so I set my alarm for 7:15 and lay back down. What seems like hours later, I jerk up because I thought I had slept through my alarm. I grab my phone and it says 3 a.m. I look around, it's still dark out. At this point I'm like, what the F? I get up and wake up my friend and ask her what time it is, and she checks her phone and tells me 3 a.m. I thought I had just had a super vivid dream, but when I checked my phone, the alarm had been changed to 7:15. Still have no idea what happened. When I was in jail for a DUI, I had a dream that my mom died in her sleep 2 weeks later. I received a call from my brother that my mom passed peacefully in her sleep. I told my dad about the dream over the phone before it happened. Next time I called him he was legitimately freaked out. We couldn't explain it. Still can't.
My 5-year-old son broke character and talked to me like an adult. This happened about 2 years ago and I was so blown away I took notes and told my wife about it, so I still have the notes on my phone. My 5-year-old son was pretty typical for his age, always goofing around, never serious, always working some angle to negotiate treats or buying whatever thing was at the top of his list this week. Kids have a selfish worldview and that's mostly understandable because they haven't matured yet. So when my son asked me to go for a walk, just the two of us, I immediately laughed and thought, okay, what's he going to ask for? We start walking and I ask, what's on your mind, buddy? He said, nothing really, I just wanted to have some time to be with you and be peaceful and be out in nature. Wow, okay, this is progress, I thought. Then he said, I want you to know you're the best dad I've ever had. You really do help me and my sister a lot and you're really very nice even though we don't usually tell you. So I just wanted to say thank you for everything and that I want to be near you always. By this point the only reason I wasn't completely crying my eyes out is that I thought it was some kind of a joke or lead up to ask for something. This was totally out of character, especially at this age. I managed to croak out something like, I'm really glad to hear that and I love you very much. Then we just enjoyed the rest of the walk. It really felt like for a moment I was speaking to a soul who has had several lives. You're the best dad I've ever had, and wanted to speak directly to me instead of play the role of a child. I'm so glad it happened and it's something I will never forget. Later he went right back to being the same old goofy kid that I love.
Which Mandela effect messed your head up the most? Okay, hear me out. First of all, in Brazil you typically don't go to school, middle school or high school, doesn't matter, for the whole day. You are in school either in the morning, usually 7:30 a.m. to noon, or in the afternoon, usually 1 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Every single person who was a kid in Brazil, and was not in school in the mornings, when 9/11 happened, remembers watching Dragon Ball Z and having it be interrupted for the breaking news of the attacks. And I mean everyone. It comes up every time someone asks what were you doing when 9/11 happened. Except DBZ wasn't on at that time. Someone checked the airing times and compared to the time when the attacks happened. Definitely not on. Still, a whole generation of kids is 100% sure they were watching DBZ when the news broke out.
What is a unspoken, universal rule all males know? When you reach a certain age, you must groan when either sitting or standing up, even if there is absolutely no pain whatsoever. When leaving you must smack your pockets to make sure everything is there. The nod. When there's a choice between urinals, use the one that minimizes the chances of neighboring another occupied urinal. Every time you grab the tongs, click them twice to make sure they work. If a hood on a car is open, you must stand in a circle around it. Similar to grills at an event. You must stand by your bro while he's grilling, and make comments about the level of awesome it's going to be. Anytime you're strapped down a load you must slap it and say that ain't going nowhere, trust me, just do it. What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? Part 1. The math teacher left his wife of 18 years for one of the graduating seniors. My English teacher in the 11th grade was sleeping with the whole girls' basketball team in exchange for straight A's. I actually failed English that year, but when that made the news my school said I didn't have to go anymore because he wasn't doing the grading properly. Everyone who had his class got a B. Girl A decided to fight Girl B in class. Girl A ripped Girl B's real hair out, broke her nose, and crippled her. Girl B was sent to the emergency room. Girl A was suspended for 2 weeks. They were both in 7th grade. 1 year in exams days they were trying to add a new method to prevent cheating where a man from the administration comes to every class before every exam and collects students' phones while sticking a sticker with a number on each phone and giving the same sticker to the student so he can get his phone after school without anyone taking someone else's phone that looks alike or something. This was working at first and a bit preventing cheating until one day some guy sneaked into our high school and came as the man who collects the phones while he wasn't. He stole the whole high school phones and went lol. A student that was in the grade above me killed his girlfriend and buried her by the train tracks right behind the school. What did you find out about your wife/husband only after you got married? All the time we were together before, I probably would have said I would have liked a little more traditional romance, but I appreciated how straightforward and pragmatic he was about other things and thought I can't have it both ways. He always said he thought marriage was essentially meaningless. Eventually, for external reasons, we decided to do it. We threw together a cheap little ceremony in a few weeks to get it over with, as we both put it. He put on his suit, I put on my pretty dress, we had the officiant there and got started. However, when it came time for the vows and the ring exchange, I suddenly found myself facing a very sentimental man, who was clearly deeply in love with me and overjoyed to be marrying me. After that, the same man who took years to feel comfortable holding my hand in public for even 5 minutes was hugging and kissing me in front of everyone at every moment he could during the ceremony. Then he wanted to celebrate every week anniversary, then every month anniversary with romantic dinners and having the same cake we had at our wedding. He starts celebrating at 12:01 a.m. on our anniversaries. What have you witnessed someone do that made you realize she is really, really smart? My wife's grandfather. He's a retired electrical engineer with a dozen patents to his name, and a long list of recognitions I can't be bothered to remember or name. I always knew he was brilliant, but never realized just how, until one day last year we were visiting and he got a phone call. Keep in mind he's been retired for 20 years and is 86 years old. The phone call was from an electrical engineering firm from halfway across the globe asking if they could fly him out to a site and have him consult on the energy capture of a hydroelectric dam they were building. They'd run into a problem that none of them, all electrical engineers, could solve. They had consulted 3 of the top related university departments in the US on the issue, and the last one had referred them to him. 20 minutes on the phone, and he agreed to think about it. 2 days later he had solved their issue, and written the solution on a single 8x11 sheet of paper, which he scanned and emailed to the company. He said he took so long to write it up because he didn't want to have to fly all the way there at his age. His explanation was so clear I was able to understand and follow it with no relevant higher education.
What is the worst thing you've overheard while pretending to be asleep? My father, telling my mother, that sometimes he just wanted to blank me. I was 5 years old when I overheard this. Being that my dad was a drinker, and full of rage, I believed him, and lived my entire childhood believing he was going to blank me. My walls were thin. I could hear almost anything. My parents argued in what they thought was a quiet voice, about divorce. Then, my dad says, "You can keep the kid. He annoys the F out of me." The next week they told me and signed the papers. My mom and I were sharing a hotel room on a trip, and unfortunately, only had one bed, so we had to share that too. As I was trying to fall asleep, I kept hearing the text tone from my mom's phone going off and her giggling. My parents hate each other, so I knew it wasn't my dad she was texting with. Curious, I opened my eyes just a little bit to see that she was flirting with other men, while on a trip with her family, and I was in fact staring at a pic. I couldn't really go back to sleep after that. When I was around 8 years old, I was supposed to be asleep, but I snuck downstairs to get milk or something. I heard talking going on downstairs, so I stood still and listened. My mom was talking to my brother about how much of a problem I was and how she hated me. She always liked my brother more. I just silently crept back upstairs and cried myself to sleep. Good times.
What accident happened in a sleepover that ruined the sleepover? When we were growing up, one of our close friends at the time had to wear diapers because of a car crash that left him totally incontinent. We knew about it and it was fine. I mean, it wasn't his fault some drunk idiot left him with a disability. Our friend group was really close, so we were used to his accidents and had sleepovers all the time. Well, one night, something did not sit well with him because around 2 in the morning, we all woke up to the smell of death. Poor kid had absolutely unleashed everything in his body so bad that it spilled out onto my bed. We were all gagging and trying hard not to upset him over it, but it was just too bad. I think the combination of embarrassment and the sheer scale of the mess sent him over the edge though. He ran out to call his mom to come pick him up while the rest of us had to evacuate my room. My mom was passed out drunk by this point, so I had to gather my sheets and take them to the laundry room while my 3 other friends picked spots out in the living room to crash. I told him he was able to take a shower while he waited for his mom, but he was too upset and just waited outside in that horrid squalor. We didn't see him for a few days after that, but then everything went back to normal. We never brought it up at any other sleepovers. What high school conspiracy turned out to be true at your school? We had a student teacher, so a reasonably attractive guy who was about 22 or 23. The rumor was that he was dating a girl in our class, a senior who was nearly 18. It turned out the rumor was wrong. He was dating her younger sister who was in 8th grade. Dance, theater, and music teacher had illegal boxing fights on the weekend. There were 3 seniors in different years who married teachers shortly after graduating. One was my former prom date. That there were tunnels under the school that led to a hidden pool. Confirmed by my father who was a maintenance man for the school district. The tunnels were just utility tunnels. The pool is below the gym floor and was abandoned due to financial reasons. My history teacher tennis coach made moonshine and hosted cockfights in his barn. I ended up becoming friends with his son and it was all true.